as a leader, a business person, whatever, put people in the position to win, convince them that you think they could win. People will generally, they'll be who you title them as. If you tell someone they're a thief, tell them they're a thief enough times, they might as well steal from you. They got the title already. They might as well have the stuff.
Bert Sorin didn't just inherit a family business, he reimagined it. From a humble garage operation into the gold standard of strength training equipment.
Trusted by Olympians, NFL teams, military units, and the most elite performers on the planet.
In this conversation, we go deep into the origins of Sorinex, into the lessons of family, legacy, and what it takes to step out of a giant's shadow. This isn't just about barbells. It's about vision, values, and the weight of responsibility.
What was the first NCAA team you all built out for?
First one of note would have been a University of Kentucky, 85 or 86. It about killed us, but we got it done. Pops had to sell his house to fund for buying steel. And that's where people talk about like how hard business is. Okay, sell your house, use that money to buy steel, and then figure a deal out to the guy you sold your house to let him lease it back to you so you have a place to live.
Oh, man.
So you could build the upholstery in the garage. Okay, do that. And then tell me, are you really all in? I know one of my dad's goals was to change the strength industry, and my goal was to change the strength industry on a cultural level. I kind of realized in order to do it, we had to be good at what we do, or no one cares.
Sleep is the ultimate performance enhancer. It doesn't really matter what your goal is, getting more sleep is the cornerstone of achieving it. And it's so important that quality sleep by itself increases lifespan. Sleep better, perform better, live longer. It's pretty simple. As a dietitian, jiu-jitsu black belt, outdoorsman, husband, and father, these things are pretty important to me, and I would imagine they're probably important to you too. That's why I professionally and personally recommend Protekt Rest. Protekt Rest is a natural sleep aid crafted to promote deep restorative sleep so you can recover faster and perform better. With clean, science-backed ingredients, it's designed to support your body's natural rhythms without any grogginess the next morning. And the best part is, it doesn't cause any of the harmful effects that prescription sleep aids and melatonin do. So if things like improved performance and a longer, healthier life matter to you, try Protekt Rest and start sleeping better now. I'm a dietitian and work with some of the best athletes in the world. These people trust me with their health and performance, and it's up to me to make sure that they're taking advantage of everything they can to be at their best. And I feel the same way when it comes to the general population, because dads, moms, students, physical laborers, and busy professionals all need to do everything they can to perform at their best every single day. That's why I tell everyone I can that a great day starts with a good night's sleep. And when it comes to the best sleep, Tuft & Needle has your back, quite literally. Their state-of-the-art mattresses are designed with adaptive foam to give you the perfect balance of support and comfort, whether you're recovering from a tough workout or just need a restful night to tackle the day ahead. They're so confident you'll love their mattresses that they offer a 100-night sleep trial. So if you're ready to upgrade your sleep, visit tuftandneedle.com and use code TruthSerum15. That's Truth_Serum15 to get 15% off and finally wake up feeling energized and ready for the day ahead. Good to go whenever.
I thought we were going.
Oh yeah, no,
that was the podcast.
No, I'll introduce.
That's pretty much how it was at Rogan. We just started talking, and you're just like, "Oh, we're going now."
No, that is kind of how I'll introduce, and then it just kind of happens. But Bert Sorin, welcome to the Truth Serum podcast at the man cave of Bert Sorin.
Thanks, man. It's good to be at my house.
Thanks
for having me.
We have a portable podcast studio. You know, we can take it wherever. This is kind of the coolest place. We might just make this the home and invite
perfect.
People
Leave it plugged in and let's go. Thanks for inviting me on, man.
Yeah,
appreciate you taking the time.
And it's cool because it really, like, looking around, it worked out perfect because that kind of has everything that is Sorinex.
Yeah, it's kind of like my brain exploded in here. Well, hopefully not legitimately, but yeah, you get it.
No, and that is kind of what is Sorinex. When you talk about what is Sorinex, it's exercise equipment, but my introduction a few years ago has led me to see that it's so much more. Such a culture of things. And like, how would you describe Sorinex to someone?
That's a really good question. I think you're right. First of all, like, we try to do the things on the quote, which is the actual tangible strength equipment. We try to do that very, very well and hit the fundamentals well and extraordinary there. But I think where we really, as a company, where we really shine is the stuff that's not on the quote. And that's the ideas, that's the culture, that's the community, that's the innovation, integrity, like that, all that stuff. So what I believe we are is like a solutions-oriented company. And I hate to even use that term because it's so overused these days. But application solutions, and it's literally pulling the best out of people. And so my dad used to always say, look at something not for what it is, but what it could be. And so that was how we tried to look at the equipment and the solutions that solve problems within the strength training space. But as I grow older, I realize that you're also talking about people. You're talking about potential, not where they are and who everyone thinks they are, but who they can be based on what's inside of them. And so that's more of an esoteric view of it. But I think that's why Sorinex is different, because that's really our view. And I joke, I said, we're very good at making steel rectangles. And so that's kind of what people know us for. But really that's more of the cover charge to be impactful in the strength community. You know?
I like that. And it is. I believe it was Summer Strong. Yeah, it was Summer Strong. Your wife spoke once about, she was talking about like the undercurrent.
Yeah.
Within the things. And I remember that.
Yeah.
Like it was such a cool thing because they were doing like a devotional.
Yeah, the devotional on the Sunday morning. Yeah.
And she was talking about that and how she's always felt like there's this undercurrent within the community.
Yeah.
And I've seen that. Like there really is. And it's weird. I guess I consider it the circle. Like I kind of got into the circle a few years ago, and man, I talk to people. The people I talk to the most now throughout the week are typically people that I rarely even see. I just know them through the Sorinex circle.
Oh, that's the best. That's the goal, really. That's the goal. We love building equipment, and everyone has to pay their bills. But if we could do our job effectively, we keep getting to affect people and build communities and truly build communities, not in the kind of like the tongue-in-cheek way, like, oh, we did. It's like, no, seriously, like what you're saying. It's cool. I love seeing on social media where you're interacting with people that I know that you're introduced through our circle, and I know your life, or I feel that your life is better because of it. I know you're pouring into them, they're pouring into you. And if you buy something from us, great. If you don't, that's great too. Like, is your life better? Good. That's our payment. And then if we choose to do life together, maybe at some point something I sell or have will be valuable to you. And if not, still, like, hopefully we've made each other's lives better in the meantime. And so I like to see if that's the goal, and if it actually has occurred, that's a success.
Yeah, no, I think you're definitely doing that. And correct me here, but I believe that Sorinex was started by your father. I know that, Richard Sorin, Pops.
Yep. Almost 45 years ago.
Started purely out of his desire to have it himself.
Yes.
Yeah,
he was always a lifter and always built things. Even he built strength equipment when he was a little kid, 8, 9, 10 years old, because that's what he always wanted, to be strong. But he also had a mind for building because he was an only child. So he was at home having to solve things, and he was inclined towards it. And so he was having to build his own stuff. But then as he got bigger and stronger, and he was just like, well, this could be better. This could be more adjustable. This could be safer. Or I'm in the basement and I'm unable to do these exercises overhead. So let me change these things that he was telling me about one of the first pressing machines that he built, which was basically a Viking press, or really kind of like a landmine or a jammer arm style press. He said he built something that held a bar on the end of his steps, going into his attic, because that was where he had height.
Yeah.
And he said he would pull the bar over and latch it on top of the banister. He'd pull it off, walk it out, and do single arm presses.
Brilliant.
And I was like, how old were you? He was like, 11 or 12.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, wait a second. He goes, well, I couldn't do it in the basement because I couldn't go overhead because the basement was too low. So I only do deadlifts in the basement, but then I can do my overhead stuff upstairs in the and I'm like, that you were that little by yourself with no real mentors and decided that that's how you were going to solve the problem. Wow. And so I look at it and I say that just where people could understand, like, it's kind of like it or not, it's in the blood, right? It's just who we are and what we do. And like we were talking earlier about hunting, my wife said one day, she's like, well, Bert loves hunting in the outdoors so much that I know God put that in him. So who am I to try to remove that? When people say, well, you let him go hunting all the time. She's like, that's who he is. Why am I going to change that? And I truly think Pops and me certainly to an extent, like solving problems and like looking at things differently. And I mean, I've learned it from Pops. I'll go out in the gym sometimes and I'll lay on the floor and watch people lift. You literally see a different perspective of what's happening, and you see different things from literal different angles. And I don't know, I just try to look at something different, and it's cool. It's cool when it works.
That's fascinating. And the exercise equipment itself, just to speak on that, which again, I get that's the the money maker and the product, but it's I don't want to say the least interesting, because it's not. If you're anyone who's ever seen Alabama's weight room, holy smokes. But it's just
even cooler in real life.
Oh, dude. But it's just a portion of what you all do. But the equipment isn't just, it's not just metal. It's not just things put together. Right. It's literally, I'm trying to think how to say it. It's like, how can we efficiently take things you might find in like a Globo style 24-hour gym, and how can we make them part of a rack?
Yes.
Which is what's so cool. And what I like that you guys do is you'll actually communicate with the strength and conditioning coach of a university. You'll speak with the team, like, what are your needs? And let's design a strength and conditioning facility for your needs.
Yes.
Not you have to figure it out within the equipment.
Right. The worst thing that I've seen in the industry is very typical, but it's very efficient. Say, well, what's the price of 5 half racks? Whatever. Like, okay, fine. That's Where we were, I believe, the first company that 20-something years ago, the conversation was, please send me your in-season and out-season programs. And then also give me another list of the things that you would like to try to accomplish within the weight room, but your current equipment won't allow you to. Now let's design something for you, which is the same as in your world. The product is not the weight or the number on the scale, and it's not the blood work results. That is the product, but it's the nuance of how do you get there. And it's all that other stuff that is the solution. This is just the result or the artifact of the solution. The Alabama weight room are physical, tangible artifacts of what the training intent was and what the perceived solution was, that we worked together with a coach, and together this is the best thing we could come up with together as a team that meet their budget and their space requirements. That is a representation of that. It doesn't mean any more or any less than that. And then a year from now, that will probably need to change, because they will be a different team than they were this year, because they would have learned something. They would have said, you know what, we really like to, I'm just making up some, pull from this level, doing this with this speed intent or whatever. It's like, well, we want to add accommodating resistance in this plane of movement. Okay, now if we designed it properly to expand, there might be a hole in that position. They can move a pin or they could do something. So that's kind of looking forward. But if not, they might call and say, hey, we wanted to load this and this, and then now we change the solution slightly again and let it just, again, like the training world, like the nutrition world. And so that's where I like to show that the equipment is not the end-all be-all. It is an artifact of what we collectively felt the best solution was.
No, that's pretty brilliant. I'd never really thought of it that way, but it really is. And my first time actually seeing it,
I mean, if someone went to your resume, you wouldn't show them your blood work.
No.
Right?
Yeah,
but that's
correct,
kind of what you're leading towards.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I got great blood work, body fat's the right way, this, that. And you're like, look, I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's a result of that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And it's more about building the system that helps get there, and being able to effectively and efficiently present that and give
that's just data at the end of it. Did it work or not?
Yeah. I remember the first gym that I saw, the first college weight room I saw with the Sorinex equipment, and I got to actually see athletes move through it for their program, was University of South Carolina.
Sure.
And just seeing it and seeing how things were put together for Coach Luke's programming and how he does things, it made perfect sense.
Luke and Chip are brilliant. Like, I'm so glad they're having a good year, because I so wanted the world to realize how brilliant they are.
Yes. We had talked about that.
Yeah, and it stinks because if like maybe you don't have the horses or you have some bad luck, you could be easily shown as like, well.
Yeah.
And I had the utmost respect, and I even though you and I both visit and talk to them often, and I get to see behind the scene of everything stuff as much as you do.
Yeah.
But there's a few staffs that are truly looking at strength and conditioning different, and they're one of them.
Yeah, and it is just to say I'm going to have both of them on the podcast. But it was frustrating for me, and people who have like a look behind the curtain.
Oh yeah.
It was frustrating for me in the past. Sometimes you would see people, like maybe you'd see players get injured, and I'm like, what's the strength conditioning staff doing down there? All these injuries.
Right.
I'm like, number one, it's football. Injuries happen.
It's war.
What are you? This is a collision sport.
Yes.
Injuries happen.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, you guys don't realize among everyone, these guys are probably doing more for injury prevention than anyone. Like it's some of the most interesting strength conditioning based off of human movement,
Yes,
under a load and all of that. And it is brilliant, and I'm glad that people are seeing the benefit of that because they deserve it.
Oh yeah,
you want to see
and there's
people win.
I'm gonna say very few. I'll just say it's very few times that I see people's training protocols that are not only interesting. Everyone's kind of interesting in their own nuance, but then when I don't fully understand it. Usually if somebody be like, hey, we cleaned this, we just pulled this, we snap, and you're like, okay, that tracks. I understand all that. But then when you have someone that you have to keep going back to fully understand really how to do it, I get excited because I'm like, okay, I'm learning, right? That algorithm is continuing to change the more I'm around it. And I'm not saying it's the best way to train. I'm not saying it's just very interesting and it makes sense in many ways. And so I'm excited. I want to incorporate more of it myself.
If you know anything about me, you know that I eat deer. And that's because venison is higher in protein and lower in calories than most other protein sources. And since deer aren't mass farmed, it's 100% organic and free from all the additives that you don't want. I think everyone should eat deer, but not everyone hunts and not everyone has access to this best protein option. So I've teamed up with my buddies at Maui Nui Venison to offer Truth Serum listeners a limited collection of my favorite venison cuts. Again, since deer aren't mass farmed, supply is naturally limited. So make sure you head over to mauinuivenison.com/truth. That's MAUINUI venison.com/truth. Eat deer. Yeah. And what was the first, I'm sure you do, what was the first NCAA team you all built out for?
First one of note would have been a University of Kentucky. Okay. And that was 85 or 86.
Wow.
So that was like the first, what you would consider this first super room. That was super room, as we call it, large capacity, custom equipment, something that wasn't necessarily off the rack, no pun intended. Things that have like a lot of, like I said, custom nuance and then just large volume. And that was, so a strength coach by the name of Pat Etchberry was there, and he pushed Dad really hard and pushed everyone. And he was like, set the bar really, really, really high. It was something you see more now with these big rooms, but back then you didn't. And he made, that was our first room that we did, we fought tooth and nail to get it. That was kind of where we really cut our teeth on, yes, we could do these larger rooms. And it about killed us, but we got it done. Pops had to sell his house to fund for buying steel. Wow. I mean, that's where people talk about like how hard business is and are you really just willing to sacrifice what you believe in? It's like, okay, sell your house, use that money to buy steel, and then but figure a deal out to the guy you sold your house to let him lease it back to you so you have a place to live.
Oh, man.
So you could build the upholstery in the garage. Like,
wow.
Okay, do that. And then tell me, are you really all in? And if you don't, audit that statement. Right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so stuff like that we've gone through. And I've been through some tough stuff over the years, and I've been here 25 years, but I look back in the olden days of stuff that Pops had to get through to get those. But he truly believed it. He's like, if we do this sets us on a track. And a few years later, Bruno Pauletto was at University of Tennessee. You know that name. Oh, yeah. So Bruno was an Olympic shot putter. He started a company called Power Systems after that. And he was, I believe, the head of the NSCA at one point. But he was at Tennessee. And they were going to make the next super room because they had to go against Kentucky. Like, screw, if Kentucky has that, we want it better. It came to Pops. He said, hey, I need something better than Kentucky. Dad said, Kentucky's the best. He said, yeah, I need to make it better. So they did a whole nother realm of custom stuff. Was there for a while. And then you had, who was the legendary coach that was at Tennessee after that came in? John Stuckey. Stuckey inherited that room. Well, then you have some assistants. I don't know if you ever heard these names, but you had assistant named Johnny Long, Tommy Moffitt, Chris Carlisle, Aaron Osmus.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about
people, especially Aaron. Almost everyone should know.
Well,
Aaron
yeah, I mean, and Tommy ain't nothing to sneeze at either, you know.
Sure.
But I mean, those are
For
the assistants in that room that all grew up.
Yeah,
and,
my goodness.
And so back then, in my opinion, you had like two camps of like truly the burgeoning strength and conditioning collegiate level. It was Boyd Epley at Nebraska, and you had Tennessee that was really cranking out high level, true strength and conditioning, power as well as strength, and a lot of it was. I mean, I kind of like it because both of it came from a track and field background. You had a shot putter and a pole vaulter, track and field that were kind of the fathers of both of those.
Yeah, and I know your background is track and field.
Yes,
I had to write all this down because it's so much. You're a 4-time Division I All-American in track and field, SEC champion, held records in weight throw, and competed in the Olympic trials.
Correct.
And that's a lot. And the cool thing about track and field, I threw shot put. I wasn't really good at it.
Sure.
Neither was I.
Yeah.
But I did track and field in high school, and it's one of the coolest things. I'm obsessed with sport history.
Yes.
Like and I love the history of sport and how things. I was telling you earlier. Anytime I see something, I always wonder what it was like when it started.
Yeah.
Like what it was. And track and field is, or I'll always say fighting is the first sport known to man.
Zero
and
question.
someone ends up saying inevitably, like, well, no, that's running. I'm like, no, running's what they did when they couldn't fight. You know. But the first organized events were track and field.
Right.
events.
And sport was kind of really made of a derivative of fighting because they said we can't kill each other every day.
Yeah.
So let's do a thing that no one dies.
Yeah.
And make a sport of it. We still get to compete.
Yeah. And the cool thing about track and field, I don't necessarily know what caused it to kind of start back in, but I feel like over the last several years, probably even the last 10 to 15, there's kind of been the reintroduction in regular strength conditioning. People are kind of appreciating the need to throw and toss.
Right.
And I don't know if maybe CrossFit helped with that. Maybe mixed martial arts.
I think there's some of that. I think there's so many, if you really look at a lot of the impetus of all the strength and conditioning, human performance training, not just strength and conditioning, human performance. Most of it has a background in track and field because track and field is the sport of training. Yeah. It is. It's the objective sport of training. There's no strategy. There's no teamwork. There's no, it's Sidious altus fortis, higher, faster, stronger. That is the whole premise of the Olympics. You are not good at track and field if you're not good at training, because if your training sucks every time you compete, i.e. test it, if it doesn't move up, then your training was wrong. Period. End of story. You're either bad at actually competing, and that's a mental thing, or your preparation, but preparation is still part of the training. And so I think people are starting to realize the purest level of training is track and field. If you want to be more powerful and show more power into a sub-maximal implement, look at a shot putter, discus thrower, javelin thrower. Period. End of story. Like, if you're better at it, the implement will go further. Yeah. If you want to jump higher, well, we can measure that, And so that's where I think you're starting to get a large group of people. It's really the first human performance experts were from the track and field space, but I think other people are starting to realize that, and the beauty of, let's look at data and science, and the purest effect of that is this. I mean, in fighting, wrestling, other combat sports, every dog can have his day. Oh, yeah. And the underdog and the guy who's not trained as well can win on a lucky kick, on a lucky catch.
Have a puncher's chance.
And a puncher's chance where, there's always that in long jump, but probably not, And so, I mean, I think honestly, stupidly enough, I think with Instagram and everything now, you also have the visuals, and there's some of the best bodies in the world. People are like, you know what? Sprinter girls look awesome. I want to look like that. And they go,
and then they find out that they're lifting.
And a friend of mine was actually, Jason Walsh, strength coach out in LA, but he coached Jessica Biel back when she was yoked, when she was like Jessica Biel, right? Yeah. And everyone was freaking out, like, how did you get her butt and her back and everything like that? And he's like, I did my internship at UNC under Gatz in the track and field work. He goes, I just trained her like a sprinter.
Yeah.
He goes, I fed her and trained her like a sprinter, and she had the best body in Hollywood. He goes, she was lifting, she was pulling, she was doing all this stuff. And you're like, oh, that was it 20 years ago. She wasn't doing all the stuff everyone else was doing.
I make that argument a lot with people. Like, they'll come to me with an aesthetic goal. I just want to look better.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, but do you want to look better at the sake of your health and performance?
Correct.
Because we can feed you to perform better, and looking better is a side effect of high performance.
Correct.
Outside of a weight class sport where maybe you have to be a heavyweight, high performers happen to look really good. They don't care if they look really good. They don't try to look really good. They just do as a side effect of being high perforers.
Correct.
But if we just worry
they're
about
balanced
looking good,
well, they have enough muscle, not too much fat, like all those things. Yeah.
And I think one of the earliest times in my life, I just turned 37 a couple weeks ago, when I remember that kind of became really popular was in the training for 300.
Oh,
everyone was looking at these guys just looking jacked, and then you saw their workout stuff with Mark Twight and all that.
Yeah.
It was functional type training.
Yeah.
And it was just what I always call training for life. I used to own a gym, and we were a CrossFit gym, but we were we would say we were CrossFit by name only. We did strict pull-ups, strict chin-ups, bench press, deadlifts, quick sprints, different things there. But
human performance training.
Exactly. And that was our slogan, was train for your life.
Yes.
And that was it. We would do different things that it was really just to make you a better mover, make you a better performer. And you know what happened? Like, people just happened to not be getting injured, and they just happened to start looking better as a side effect of that. And we're not doing those things on purpose. It's just our purposeful training for becoming a better human performer.
Right. Turn yourself into a race car, because you know what? Race cars are pretty sexy looking too.
Yeah.
Like they really are. What would you think? That's my just question. For the average male, like, let's say you're not an NFL lineman or a shot putter or something like that, when true mass helps, or a super heavy in the Olympic lifting or powerlifting. What would you say is the optimal? I know this might be a loaded question. Optimal body fat percentage for, I would say, a high level male athlete.
Yeah.
Is it as low as possible, or you're like anything under 10?
Absolutely no. It's not even I don't want to misquote it exactly, but I'm wanting to say it's between 12 and 15 around that. It's higher. It's almost always higher than people think.
Yeah. Why
Just
is that?
Astronomically higher. I mean, for a few different reasons. It could be because they're not aggressively focused on just being as low body fat percentage as possible. Because, as you know, when
is there an advantage? Would they be better if it was 10? Or is it kind of better if it's 12 to 15?
No, because a bit of that. So when we talk about energy, we talk about calories, we talk about calorie deficit, calorie surplus, calorie maintenance. Calorie surplus is where you gain weight. A calorie deficit is where you lose weight. But really, calories are energy. So when we turn that to energy deficit, energy surplus, energy maintenance, because that is what it is.
Sure.
So if
you're not going to recover on energy deficit.
If you are constantly in an energy deficit to help you get as lean as possible, that's not just a deficit of food, that's a deficit of energy. Yes. So with that also oftentimes comes a decrease in human performance. You might get stripped and lean as possible.
Right.
But at the same time, that does not transfer into high performance. Correct. Now there's a bell curve there. If I'm putting on so much weight and it's becoming unfunctional, and I'm moving slower because of it, that's a problem as well. But anytime I see anyone that is eating in like a prolonged energy deficit, you start to see that performance suffer. Energy maintenance to a slight energy surplus is really where you need to be.
Right, yeah.
And as you know, anytime you're putting on muscle mass, someone's like, I want to put on 20 pounds of muscle in a year. I'm like, first off, it ain't happening. Drug-free, especially. Right. But it's not happening. We can put on some, you're going
5,
to put on
7, 8.
Yeah, and that's outstanding. When people hear that like 5 to 8 pounds in a year is phenomenal for muscle gain, they're like, no way. I'm like, no, that is, trust me, there are people who would kill. I would kill for that. I would kill at this point in my training season in life to be able to put on 8 pounds of muscle in a year.
Right.
It's not happening.
Oh, it's not so
happening.
difficult.
But yeah, I think that's a large part of it. And as you know, if you put on 8 pounds of muscle, you're putting on pounds of fat as well with that. And I think that's it.
Right, and you're also increasing the caloric needs significantly as well too to maintain that.
Yeah, and that's that's the thing. You look at most of your top athletes. Now there are some that are just happen to be shredded. Shredded. There's genetic anomalies, but your top athletes.
I don't usually see many of them being good though.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. They might be lean, but they're rarely shredded. Especially, we'll use MMA as an example because they're competing shirtless. You see it. You see it. There's not many high-performing fighters out there that are at the best of the thing that are just shredded to the gills. I think Khabib is arguably one of the greatest. It's not even arguably, he is one of the greatest ever, if not the greatest.
Right.
And Khabib would be lean, but like Khabib didn't have a six-pack. Like maybe sometimes when he's breathing heavy, you can see it pop out, but he didn't just have like these shredded abs. Yeah. There are some guys that just naturally have it, but who, without argument, the greatest is John Jones. John Jones is most people's greatest of all time.
15% body fat, maybe.
Yeah, if that low, and maybe that at 205, but at heavyweight he's still going to go down as one of the greatest heavyweights ever. And like the dude's he don't have a shredded six pack.
Yeah,
and it's like that is the epitome of human performance.
Exactly the same thing I experienced in track and field. Like you'd have a couple sprinters would take off their shirts and they were uber yoked, and like those cats would be uber yoked if they were doing nothing, right? They woke up that way, and God made them that way, and that's cool. Like but
a little jealous, but it's cool.
Yeah, you're just like no. Why would you be 4% body fat at 200 pounds? It's super great. Glad that happened for you. Yeah, right. But all the throwers and a lot of some of the jumpers and people like that were maybe a little bit different, or the decathletes. But yeah, I knew a lot of dudes in that 17 to 22% body fat that had Olympic medals around their neck.
Yeah.
And you're just like, this is, but in my opinion, you're getting that energy surplus. You're getting recovery surplus. You have a little bit of padding because big weights are brutal.
Yeah.
And people attacking you and smashing into you. It's nice to have a little bit more padding. And so that was interesting. I always thought that was something that the perceived world misses.
Yes. And that's, you want to know, it was a thing to really, I had to realize during my clinical rotations for my dietetics, for my registered dietitian license, like my clinical rotations at the VA, you really go through this with clinical nutrition. The highest predictor of mortality is not being overweight, it's being underweight at that age. Like as we age, underweight is scary. Overweight is not nearly as scary. The malnourished die at a much greater rate than the overweight. But all we talk about is being overweight. Like that's the thing we drive home, and that's part of the bad thing with Instagram. Everyone's comparing themselves to people, and number one, it's fake. Like most of it out there, it's fake. It really is. They're taking like the perfect picture. And when I'm doing seminars with people,
get the lighting perfect.
Yeah. When I'm doing seminars with people, like I'm trying to explain to them a lot of times, like lean doesn't mean you have a shredded six pack. And in fact, genetically, it might not be a thing for you, especially the way water is distributed.
For me. Yeah. I've always carried a little bit more here. Even when I was 7.5% body fat when I was in college, I carried it here. So I was like, it's where it is.
Yeah. You look at me fighting at 170, like when some of my on weigh-in days, less than 10% body fat, and I didn't have a shredded six pack. I'm lean everywhere, but not a shredded six pack. It's just not. I think just like you also saw me back, I would always have like pretty muscular jacked arms. Never worked arms ever. I don't work arms, but it's just genetic. But it just happens to be that way. But Instagram and everything has made people think you have to be. So when I'm doing these seminars, I kind of describe it. I'm like, leanness is maybe at the right angle, first thing in the morning, you look in the mirror, you turn funky, and in the right light, you can see some abs.
Right.
I'm like, that's lean. We just no longer think that's lean. That's
if you don't have deep butt crack abs.
That's just not true.
It's not true.
And a lot of that is dehydration. I mean, a lot of people, they dehydrate to get to that point. I mean, I see that with fighting. That's literally what we're doing. We're dehydrating you to get onto the scale. And you see a fighter at weigh-ins versus a fighter at fight time. They look significantly different because they've put on a significant amount of body water and body fluids during that time. But I can promise you, they weren't able to perform if they had to fight getting off that scale. They were losing.
Right. If they were actually walking at 205 or whatever it was, were they probably back up to 220?
Oh, yeah,
Or what?
I wish. That's
give me-
modest. That's modest.
Yeah.
Most of your 185ers, like, so we weigh in at 185 by fight time are easily 205 and more.
20
Easily
pounds.
205 and more. The vast majority. I mean, 170s will be 190 to 200. I mean, it's
a different animal.
It's a massive difference.
Yeah, I know. I did a little bit of powerlifting, and we would weigh in, and I remember a couple guys showed me kind of how to do it with some of the salt and this and that. It was bonkers. I was trying to get under 220, and I got to 216, and I was 232 when I lifted, and it was like, whoa. This is the cheat code of this whole thing. It's great.
It's an interesting thing. Weight cutting is it's a different thing, and everybody wants to talk about like how we can stop weight cutting in mixed martial arts, and like it's not going to happen. And of course, when I say that, they're like, "Oh, you don't want that to happen." I'm like, trust me, my job would be so much easier if I'm only helping people perform better. I hate weight cuts. I hate doing weight cuts. It's taken years off my life. Helping fighters cut weight. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then my own weight cuts when I fought, because I walked around at 200 pounds and I fought at 170. It's just miserable times. I would much rather people just eat to perform,
Just run what you run
and fight, but it's just not going to happen.
How wild would it be if like you got to the day and you're like, and then they just weigh up everyone, and the people that are closest to each other just fought.
That when I first fought, so I was 19. So I was born in 87, whatever, 87 plus 19. Around this time is when I started fighting. Back then, it was illegal in Tennessee. So we would go to Kentucky and fight in these National Guard armories just in Kentucky.
That's some backwoods stuff right there.
Williamsburg, Harlan.
Well, just anytime you got to cross state lines to go fight in an armory.
Just National Guard armories. Yeah. And you would show up. And you would just get on the scale, and some guys would cut weight if you wanted, it was fine. But you would just get on the scale, and they would look down the list of other people who showed up at the end of the day, and you would be put with someone who was closest to your weight usually. And you would either bring your own gloves. Sometimes they would have gloves, and it was like what we would call now Pride rules, Pride FC back in the day. You could stomp to the head, you could kick to the front of the knee. It was just anything goes, other than groin shots and eye gouges at that point. And this was my first, I think, 4 or 5 amateur fights. Like we're amateurs and going out there able to just elbow in the head, stomp on the head, anything you want.
Built different for that.
Yeah,
it's like a bar fight without bottles.
Oh,
and chairs.
Basically. You're in a National Guard armory in middle of nowhere, Kentucky. Sometimes there were bottles and chairs thrown in, but it was a different animal during those days. And what's so funny though, off topic, but I remember back then, it was almost different because you didn't know who to train for. You just went in, you were just fighting someone. And some of those were the most exciting fights because you didn't have a game plan. And I'll say this to people
who adjust to the situation the fastest, probably.
And I've said that to people before. Like sometimes if I've been teaching like a self-defense seminar, and I have a big pet peeve with self-defense seminars. I would get asked to do them, and I would kind of annoy some people right off the bat, because you are not going to, the chances of you learning anything in a 1 day, few hour self-defense seminar that is actually applicable and you're going to be able to turn around and use, 0 to none. Like slim chance any of that is usable. Number one, because you're probably not going to practice it. Most of those people aren't going to practice it.
Yeah, they learn
regularly.
the thing on the weekend seminar, and they're going to
just
throw this guy.
It's just not a realistic thing.
Yeah.
But I tell them the mindset is everything. Having that mindset. And people think, well, if they do this, what would I do? If they move this way, and that is fighting. We do that like, well, this is his move, so I need to do this. But at the end of the day, if I take 2 people and I lock them in a warehouse, and I say, one of you is, whoever survives gets to go see their family.
Right.
Whoever dies, like, this is your last chance. And I take 2 hammers and I throw hammers and give you both hammers. It's really grotesque. Like, do you sit there and think, okay, what is the best technical method to kill this person with a hammer? No, you just bludgeon them. You just swing the hammer.
Possible.
Exactly. No one has to go over
and try to grab their hammer first.
Yes. There's no technique. There's no thought process of like what was the move that I saw? No, you just go and swing that instrument as hard as you can and kill that person. And at the end of the day, that is fighting. That is self-defense, especially when you don't have time to develop a game plan. It's like, just be more willing than they are to bludgeon that person to death and come out alive.
pretty dope.
It's a very primal type thing, but it's true. But that was it in those days.
Yeah.
It was like, we're going up there and this is someone you have to fight. You're just going to get in there and figure it out.
You fight the guy in front of you.
Yeah. And then later on, when it became sanctioned and normal, and, you know, we're looking at Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and seeing how the guy fights, we start trying to form game plans against what
his
they're
ground
doing.
Game, and so you make sure you do this. You don't want him to shoot in on you.
Yeah, and then you start like the nerves are even worse because like, well, what if he does this? And sometimes sometimes I think I'm like, what if we just didn't? What if it went back to the old way? You just go in there and fight.
It's the Coliseum. The gate comes up and you fight what comes out of door number 2.
Two things I'm passionate about are American-made products and performance, and with half-face blades, you get both. These knives are all handcrafted in the United States of America, and they're built for people who expect high performance. So whether you're hunting, cooking, or you just need an everyday carry tool that you can rely on, Half-Face Blades has you covered. There's a reason the world's most elite operators, hunters, and chefs use these knives, and that's because they're American-made, battle-tested, and built for high performance. Yeah, and I miss that. I remember working with Khabib once. With Khabib, they were really nervous at one point that I don't remember what all was going on, but they were worried that his opponents could be like spying and seeing like what they were doing and all this. They were really nervous about it. I remember telling one of his staff once, I was like, I don't really know why y'all are so concerned, because no one, there's no secret squirreling to what Khabib's going to do. Like, everyone knows what Khabib's going to do. There's no secret game plan. He's going to take you down. You just can't stop it. He's going to hold you down. You can't get up, and he's going to hit you till you give up or just lose the rounds. Like, there's no secret there. He's just better at it.
The wave's going to crash. You can't do much about it.
And that was, and to go back to, I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but to bring that back with kind of like Sorinex and what you guys do, when I talk about that training for life, you guys do, like, you find implements and things that help people become better at whatever that task is, whether it's strength conditioning, whether it's hunting.
Yeah. Or like a shoot to eat. A shoot to eat is not about archery. A shoot to eat is about competition mindset and getting the job done when it counts. That's all it is. It's an emotional stress inoculation. It's not about archery. People are like, oh, I'm not in a bow, I can't do it. I'm like, well, take a BB gun. Take a slingshot. Walk outside and shoot a free throw. I don't care.
Like that.
Seriously. And the whole point of it is, when someone calls your name to compete at any time of day, under any circumstance, can you cold bore compete? And are you good with that? Or do I got to warm up and I got to get in my groove and I got to do all this other stuff? No, MFer, like, can you go now? Right now? Because that's in real life what's going to happen. Probably most people, if they ever get into a fight, it will not be sanctioned. It will not be planned. And as for me with hunting, I started looking at it and going, I hearkened back to my days in track and field. Now, I knew when I was going to throw and I knew all that stuff, but still a lot of times nerves get to you, the variables change, and you're like, I got to, heck, my first Olympic trials, we threw at a warm-up track, and then there was a bunch of delays, and they kept like moving the bus schedule, move. And so you warm up, and then you sit for almost an hour. And then they bring you to the stadium with 40,000 people, and they go, you got 2 warm-ups in order, go. Time to try to make an Olympic team. And you're like, but what I realized was, when you're good, i.e. Olympic trial level, you're generally one of the best people at all the meets that you're going to. So you kind of get a home field advantage. They usually, if I was competing around here, it was, hey, Bert, you ready to go? I'm going to probably take one more. And they're like, yeah, let us know. Cause it's kind of pre-conclusion. You're probably going to be the top guy or two. And so the officials are like, hey man, we want you to throw well today. Olympic trials are like, you get 2 in order, go. And so that kind of freaked me out. And then, of course, you cage your first throw because it's just your whole tempo is off. Your cold bore shot is off. So I started like looking back on that. So I was like, what was the difference? Or now if I'm hunting, I'm not shooting at 20 yards first, 40 yards, 50 yards, working up to 60. I might be in Utah going after mule deer for 6 days with Big Chino outfitters and walking and tired and this and that. And I might not have pulled back my bow in 6 days. And my shot might be 68 yards through some bushes. And it's like, all right, man, I hope when you fall to your level of training, your cold bore shot is ready for that. So that was kind of the whole impetus of Shoot to Eat, was wake up, take a drink of water, walk outside. Your body's not ready. you're not optimal, you haven't done breathing things and all this other crap. It's like, no, man, in your kind of worst position, can you walk outside and get the job done? Pick up an arrow, load it in your bow, shoot one shot. If you hit it, you get to eat, you get to have coffee, whatever, you go on about your day. You post it, you make sure people see it, so there's emotional and social pressure as well. It's like, hey, if I screw this up, everyone gets to see me fail, and that's worse than food for some people. And if you get it, great. You do it again tomorrow, but you do it 1 yard harder because it always gets either easier or it gets harder or it gets harder, basically. And then if you don't make it, then hey, sorry, you show on social media or again a social platform, I have failed. I did not prepare. I lost focus. You own up to it. You don't eat. There's a physical reminder. And then hopefully it elicits a response to tonight I'm going to train. My homework tonight is I'm going to get that mark and I'm going to beat that result into me that I will not fail again tomorrow. And that's where I wish people would take those type ideals a little bit more seriously. And I don't care if it's archery. I don't care what it is. Pick your own thing that, but like learn how to compete, whether not when you want to compete, but when the competition comes to you. And so
that is hunting. I can't think of a hunt ever going exactly as I thought it would. Like never once. You're always shooting from a different position that you've never done before. Almost any time I can think of, like especially rifle hunting in a stand. Like I've sat there and thought about it. I'm like, okay, like I'm good. Or sorry, especially bow hunting in a stand, and you're sitting there thinking like I'm good unless the deer comes out at this angle, and then it might be a little difficult. The deer's coming at that angle.
Of course it is.
You might as well just as soon as you see the angle you shouldn't be shooting at, just get ready.
Just get ready for that. Yeah,
it just always seems happening. You either figure it out right then, or you fell at it.
It's either a little earlier or a little later that you want. There's a little while you're trying to take a leak or something. There's something that always comes up. And
I can tell you the biggest deer, the biggest Tennessee deer I've ever shot. And at this point, it was the biggest deer of my life several years ago. It was December 5th, which is my birthday. My wife and at that point, just my oldest son, that's all I had. They were out of town. So I'm alone on my birthday. Already like that sucks. It's freakishly warm. It's like 70 degrees, which in December doesn't happen.
No.
The wind is going crazy.
Yeah, like the worst day ever.
It makes no sense. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what though? I'm kind of sad. I'm alone on my birthday. Whatever. I'm going to just go get in a tree stand and just sit and be by myself. And that was it. I'm just going to go out on a tree stand.
I get it.
And I go up there and I get in this tree stand and nothing. It's moving so much. Nothing's going right. And in fact, I'm like, I got to pee really bad. I didn't bring a bottle or anything to pee in. I'm like, what the heck? I'm not going to shoot a deer. I've not seen a deer. I'm literally here.
It's a windy day.
Yeah, I'm not wearing. I'm not prepared even in the right gear or anything. I think I'm wearing like jeans and a flannel. Which now I'm hunting this kind of stuff a lot.
Yeah, no one's ever killed a deer in jeans and a flannel.
Yeah, Lord. So I have to pee and I like stand up. I start peeing, and then all of a sudden I see this really big doe. I'm like, that'll eat, and whatever. So she disappears. Then I tell myself, I'm like, if she comes right back out, she goes through. I'm like, I'm gonna shoot her, and she steps out again, and I draw back, getting ready to shoot. And as soon as I'm getting ready to, I look up and I see the biggest buck at that point in my life I'd ever seen, just charging after her. And I know that there's about a 10-yard. I'm on 1 acre of huntable land that's surrounded by like an industrial park and a neighborhood. So like that's the only place it could even happen.
Though. Yeah, those are.
And he starts coming down after, and there's about a 10-yard area where I can shoot from. And as soon as he gets close to, I just snort wheeze, and he stops right. He stops right there, and then takes one step, and I let go, hit. He doesn't act hit whatsoever. So I'm like, well, add to this horrible day.
Yeah.
Don't think I go over there and I start walking towards that area just because. Even though I don't think I hit him, he doesn't act hit. It's so weird. And I go over there and I don't see anything. And then I look over and I see Wyatt, and he's just laying there. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Best feeling ever.
Yeah. And I'm like, nothing about this hunt was the way a hunt should have been. No part of it. And it ended up being the best hunt of my life at that point.
Yes. I've had very similar. It's weird. Any really big deer I've ever killed has never been normal. Like it's never, ever been like, I sat on this field and 100 yards this buck came out in a clear blue day, stood broadside, and I took my bipods out. It's like, never that.
Yeah. No.
It's always a gong show, like in some weird regard. I don't know. It's just how it is. But if you're not training for that, and I used to shoot 25 years ago when I kind of started really bow hunting. I would kind of think, I was like, okay, I got to get you good at figuring out my ranges by eyes, and I probably am going to be. I didn't know the term like emotionally excited or whatever at that point, but I was like, I'll probably be like jacked up.
Yeah.
So I would throw arrows all over my yard, and I would sprint from arrow to arrow, and I'd pick up the bow and eye range it and shoot, and I'd run to the next one. So I got my heart rate up, and then I was having to eye range it and how fast can I crack off shots, and I was just running around in my suburban neighborhood doing this stuff. And maybe the furthest shot was 30 yards, but I was learning, and I was learning to feel confident. And I look back, I was like, actually, that wasn't too bad.
It's brilliant.
It's a pretty good way to doing it. And so it's like, but training is always stress inoculation, right? It's just getting good at this would suck and this is less than optimal, so I'm going to do it until it's doable.
Yeah. We talk about my son. I already told you my son killed his first a couple of days ago. Dude, 7 years old.
That's crazy.
Oh, man. It was I had a good hunting year.
Yeah.
I did miss the biggest deer I've ever shot at, and that stunk.
Yeah.
But it was all washed by that.
Yes.
It was all washed by that. And it was so cool because there were so many lessons in everything of how it happened. So we started practicing with
These are rifle. We used rifle.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
We started practicing with, but now he's like, Dad, I really want to be a bow hunter. I'm like, we'll practice, but slow down.
Bow hunter, or a young bow hunter is basically a vegetarian.
Yeah. So I'm like, we'll practice, but we're good. So we started off practicing with just a scoped pellet rifle in my backyard.
Gosh, I've shot gazillion pellets from pops.
Oh yeah. If anybody from the HOA is watching this, I'm probably out. But just shooting balloons on my archery target with a pellet gun with a scope, and then just putting him in different positions. So I started him on like a gun stand, and all this, and I started making him take it off. I'm like, okay, well now you're just going to do it off my shoulder, or now you're just going to do it freestanding. He's like, well, Dad, I can't do it good that way. I'm like, exactly. Like we're going to practice that, buddy. And he didn't like it. He didn't want that because his success rate goes down. And as a kid, that instant gratification, like I want to hit that balloon every time. I don't like the times that I miss.
Right.
And then
my kids, I just had this exact same experience 2 weeks ago with my littlest. Yeah, he was getting on the gun. I can't do that. I go, calm down. You're 8.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it either when I was 8 the first time.
Yeah. And that's why I get him out there and we go, and within a bit of time, of course, taking a kid hunting, everything goes right for some reason. There's 30 deer around us from this.
I wonder if there's like a frequency, because the times I brought my wife hunting, I always see stuff.
My wife has been, I think she's been hunting with me 4 or 5 times and killed 3 deer. It's just, they're like, okay,
there's something different. Like there's a frequency different, or I don't know, but same thing. First time I ever took her hunting, we went turkey hunting, killed 2 gobblers. First time I took her deer hunting, we killed 3 deer with 2 shots.
Golly.
And she was like, you go all the time. You said this was hard. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. This is just, well, just come back with me because this works really good.
We don't know. Just keep saying it. Yeah. But no, that was him. So we get out there and there's just deer everywhere. And I'm like, all right, buddy, let's shoot. And they're within 50 yards. And we left the sticks at home. Yeah, we have nothing. Wow. All it is shooting out of the blind. I'm like, well, buddy, honestly, in my head, I'm like, it is going to be harder, but we'll put that on the edge if we can. Mm-hmm. And the deer everywhere, and he'll bring it up, and he's left-handed, but he'll bring it up, and we'd practiced on finding the shoulder and holding for 5 seconds.
Oh, that's a good one.
And then you do it, because I don't want him to get used to, I see the shoulder go. I want him to, I get used to focusing on the shoulder? Mm-hmm. And then I would use balloon. The cool thing about balloons, and I would just tape the bottom, is the balloon would move when the wind would move or whatever. Yeah. And I'd be like, if at any point during that 5 seconds, like the shoulder moves or the deer moves, just wait, give it more time.
Boy, that's brilliant. I'm gonna do that with the kids.
It's like you don't have to, just because you find it, you don't have to shoot. Just be ready. It adjusts, you readjust. So we'd worked on that and worked on that. So he would get it, and then he's not shooting. I'm like, so how strong? He said, I don't want to do it. I'm like, why? He's like, I'm scared. I'm like, what are you scared of? So I'm scared I'm going to miss. I'm just honest. I'm like, you might, and that's okay. I'm like, you might miss. It's okay.
I have too.
Yeah. And it's like, buddy, it's okay. I'm not going to be mad at you. Nobody's going to be mad at you. Like if you miss, it's okay. And there's going to be other opportunities. Yeah. And again, he's shot, but he's like, well, what if the gun's too loud? I'm like, well, it is loud, but that's okay. It's like, well, what if it kicks? It is going to kick. Like, and I'm trying to explain to him, and he, at this point, he's like tearing up, and he's just not going to do it because I'm pressuring him, like, let's do it, buddy. Come on. Yeah. And he's like, I don't want to. And he's like, I don't even want to hunt anymore. Whoa, how did we get here?
Oh, that's
so I'm like, slow down. I'm like, slow down. I'm like, listen, buddy. Like, and I have this discussion with him a lot. I'm like, I need you to be brave. And bravery is being afraid and doing it anyway.
Yes.
It's not being afraid. Like the hunt is over because you got scared. Like none of that has ended the opportunity. The opportunity is still there. We just have to still do it with those things.
Yep.
And I'm sitting here talking to him and he's starting, I can see him starting to loosen up a bit. And by this time the deer have all moved to like 100 yards. It's getting ready to be dark. And I'm like, we came here for this. This is what we've practiced for. It's cold. Like we could be home right now. You're here. We might as well try, buddy. Let's do it. And at this point, it wasn't even in a good spot to shoot. So I have to post my arm up against and him put it on my forearm. And then I'm like, please sit still. Don't let me mess him up. And I'm sitting there holding, and I'm like, put it on the shoulder. And he's looking at me still teary-eyed. I'm like, put it on the shoulder, pull the trigger. I'm like, so let's see what happens. It's now or never. Here's what we do. Let's do it. And he pulls the trigger and nothing happened. Deer scatter. And he's just heartbroken, thinking he missed. And I think he missed. I really do. I think he missed. He's in a 6.5 Creedmoor, pretty good, good caliber and everything, but I think he's missed. And sure enough, he hadn't. He hadn't missed. He had at 100 yards off Dad's arm, he put a double lung shot in this deer. And this kid's, when I told him that he had effectively done it, his confidence skyrocketed.
Oh.
And then I'm starting to tell him, I was like, was the gun too loud? Oh, I don't know.
I don't hear it.
I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, did it kick too much? He goes, no, it didn't kick. I'm like, oh, it did kick. You just didn't feel it because you weren't focused on it. Right. And now it's like a whole different world. He's like wanting to go more now.
Oh, that's so similar, actually. So very, very interesting that these two experiences are almost the same. Yeah. So we were out at my friend's ranch, and he had a bunch of hogs, and told a little guy, I was like, hey, we're going to go out. And he goes, oh, okay, let's do it. And same thing, we were shooting a 308 with a can on it. We were shooting, and he was having a hard time, get his dominant eye or his not, and he was chasing it and couldn't find this, it's like, calm down, everybody's cool, And we had this whole pile of hogs that are about 80, 90 yards away. And they started kind of not running, not walking, but like a little bit of a trot through this alley that was maybe 3 or 4 yards wide. And they're boom, 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 boom going through. And I'm like, okay, this is, we'll probably wait. And he got the gun up. And then I was like, okay, but I'm talking to him, and boom, I'm like, there's no way he had anything. Yeah. And I was like, kind of like, hey man, glad you tried.
Yeah.
But, and he's like, I shot the one with the white shoulder. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, I heard him squeal. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't hear it hit or hear him squeal or anything. And he's like, no, I got that one. I'm like, uh-huh.
The confidence.
So, I was just like, So we walk up there, sure as the world, lung blood everywhere. And I'm like, he actually hit this thing. And we trail it about 150 yards. We find it, and it's the one with the white shoulder about 5 inches back. And I'm like, oh yeah, the 8-year-old didn't know to lead him. That he shot at 77 yards on a kind of a running hog. I'm like, and I told the guys who were with him, he's like, man, I got clients that can't make that shot. And he was just like, yeah, no, I told you I did. And I was just like, a minute ago, you couldn't find your eyes in the scope. And then he's like, all right, let's go do it again. We spot and stalked in. We were about 200 yards out from these hogs and flipped the bipod down and laid him on the ground. I go, you want to shoot? And he goes, yeah. And I go, hold on, let's just see if we get closer. So we kept stalking in. We got to like about 40 yards from him. We were up on this berm, hiding. Same thing. We get in this big pile. One was out. I said, well, the big one's there. He goes, I want to shoot the other one. I go, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Dude gets the gun up. It wasn't up for 2 seconds. Bang! The whole crowd runs. I see red pouring out the shoulder. I'm like, what is this guy? I was like, what are you? And he's like, all right, let's go do it again. I was like, whoa, put the brakes, man.
Slow down.
Slow down. And so it's just and then every morning he would tap me. He's like, Daddy, can we go hog hunting right now? I was like, buddy, it was a long night. Mommy and Daddy had a little bit of wine. Yeah. Be there with you in a little bit, but then now it's like, what season is it right now? And I go, what's this and this? Can we go right now? I said, we can't go right now, but we'll try to get it going. So, but it was interesting. He went from a little bit of, I don't want to do this. The rifle's weird, to it was like 2 shots in. And I asked him the same thing. He was like, he's going to kick. Didn't feel the kick. Didn't hear the shot. And that's what Pops used to always tell me. He's like, listen, when you're shooting at game, you'll never feel the kick. You'll never hear the shot. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And I thought back now, I was like, I've never heard the shot.
You don't think about it at the time. Yeah. How old were you when your dad would take you hunting?
I was little. I was that. We would go out and do wilderness stuff as a younger kid, but I probably started going. I was. It's kind of funny. I was probably 8 years old. He picked me up from school when I was probably in 3rd or 4th grade. Yep. And one day, I was like, "What you doing?" He's like, "We're going deer hunting." I'm like, "Okay." And we're in the Land Cruiser. And so he hands me a Ruger 1022 with a fold-out stock with a banana clip, like straight, looked like a AK from Red Dawn. And I was like, this is awesome. You know? And I got this tiger stripe Vietnam era jacket that was like, looked like a dress on me. And he put a belt around it. So it was like this long parka, rolled up the sleeves. And Mike and we're following him through the woods, and we get this dirt road, and he hands me the gun. He's like, all right, this is safety. And I'm like, yeah. Puts me on the side of a dirt road. And he's like, if a deer comes by, shoot it in the eye with a 22. And I'm like, okay. And he left me on the side of the road. and he came back like an hour later. And I'm just sitting there, and like, of course I wouldn't move because Richard Sorin told you not to move.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've been watching you for about 30 minutes, just sitting in the woods, just watching me, making sure I was good. He's like, you did good. You stayed real still. And I was like, oh, I did good. He's like, yeah, you stayed still. That's what you're supposed to do. I was like, okay. So that, like, I never sat with my dad hunting until I was probably 45 years old.
Wow.
We never sat together. We would always he was just like, you're sitting this stand, I'm sitting this stand. I'm just by myself and sitting around.
That's cool.
And then towards the end there, I didn't know it was the end, but a couple times I was like, hey, there's a big condo stand on the power line. Let's go sit together. No. And he was just like, I don't ever hunt with anybody. I'm like, I know. But, it was fun. I'd be on the glass. I'm like, hey, check this one. And I'm so glad we did it. But it was interesting. So it was kind of like I would get trained, but the competition of hunting was always like, it was, you've trained, you know how to shoot. I believe in you. Yeah. I think you could do this. And I look back now, I'm like, man, that was such a powerful thing to learn early on, the confidence of, no, I believe you. I believe you to the point that you're 10 years old and I'm going to give you a Remington 742 30-06 and an army poncho, and I'm going to tell you to go walk over there and sit under that tree, and I trust that you'll get the job done, and I trust you with this. Yeah. And I look back, I'm like, from an age-appropriate standpoint, that was probably a little much. but
different times.
Different times. It was the 80s. Yeah. But I look back, and now I'm like, gosh, but what did that seed in my brain of, if he believes I could do it, I could do it. Yeah. Because he, and as until you, I believe a person believes in the Lord or knows who God is, their dad is God. Right? Yeah, when you're little, right?
Oh yeah.
And so
it's the most powerful human you know.
It's powerful, and especially if your dad is a physical presence, right? Which mine was. And so what he said went. Like, if he said I could do that, then that's what I could do. I killed my first bear at 12 years old by myself, 20 miles from camp in Maine. I was given a .458 Winchester, Remington Model 70, Winchester Model 70. I was put up in a stand, and they went 20 miles away and put my dad out a different place. And I look back now, I'm like, I'm a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah, it's insane.
I think that's probably illegal as crap. What? I don't even, I had a license somehow. Yeah. But I killed a bear first day out. I was like, well, bear came out, turned broadside. I shot him. I waited because I was supposed to. I blood trailed him, and the guide was like, good, here's your bear. I was like, cool.
That's awesome.
And everyone in camp was like, you can't take this kid. He's going to screw up everything. And Pop's like, he'll be all right. He's like, he's fine. He understands what's going on. And I say that not to brag about me, but to it's so important as a leader or a father or a coach, instilling the confidence in your athlete or your son or your daughter or whoever, even if it's kind of over and above what is typically, the average person thinks they could do, like, I never wanted to be average. My dad never wanted me to be average. And so as long as you could convey the message to someone that they can do extraordinary things, and then you build the tools into them that, he knew I could sit still. He knew I could shoot. Oh. Well, above and beyond that.
That's hunting.
That's hunting, right? And he knew I wouldn't shoot a person.
Well,
and I know what a bear looks like.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. Yeah.
You kind of got it knocked,
Yeah.
And so those were my first hunting experiences. But I look back now and realize from the formatting of my hard drive of who I was, like how important that was. Because I watched my dad go back to bear camp with a bunch of guys who very vocally didn't want a young man in bear camp. That was an older day. Like, but used to be, that's the men's club. You go to bear camp and we're going to drink beer. And we're going to be a bear. We don't want this 12-year-old kid that's going to be whatever. And I remember them giving him a hard time and him standing up and go, no, this is my son. This is going to be my hunting partner and he'll be fine. And I remember he didn't take a lot. He goes, he'll be fine. And I came back to camp and I shot the first bear in town that year, and everyone's like, this kid, whatever. And I remember the pride that I felt, the pride that I felt watching the pride that he felt. And that he was like getting to go like, yeah, my kid did all the stuff that you were giving me shit about that you said he wouldn't be able to do. And I told you. And I remember that early on, I'm like, I can make my dad proud by overperforming. And then that just becomes such a powerful motivator. But when you believe you actually can, that's the difference. You're like, this not this insurmountable thing that I can't ever. It's like, no, like it's doable. And if he believes I could do it, I could do it.
Yeah.
And that's something I try to be better about as a dad and as a leader, a business person, whatever. It's put people in the position to win, and then like convince them that you think they could win.
Yeah.
Because people will generally, in my opinion, they'll rise to or they'll be who you title them as. If you tell someone they're a thief or they're an idiot, if you tell them they're a thief enough times, they might as well steal from you.
Yeah.
They got the title already. They might as well have the stuff,
True.
And so it's like, be very conscious about your words and what you're telling people. You tell someone they win all the time. Well, if you tell them they're a loser all the time, well, they'll follow up on that. They'll make sure they lose.
Yeah.
So.
No, I like that. It's talk a lot about, Sorinex, it literally has the name in it. It quite literally, everything about Sorinex, the Sorinex, from the equipment to the outdoor scenery and everything with it, it very much is your dad's legacy.
Yes.
And it's kind of the same thing he did with you in hunting, just kind of leaving you out there and making it work. That's kind of what he did with the business as well. Like you're essentially entrusted with the legacy that your father created, and it's your job to continue and perhaps evolve that legacy.
Correct.
And how much, if any, how much pressure do you feel with that? How much pride? There has to be so much pride with that.
There's a ton of pride, but there has been and still will always be a ton of pressure.
Yeah.
Because I didn't come to Sorinex to be a leader, be a president, be an owner, be nothing. I came to reduce stress for him and to help him out because I saw him wanting it so bad and wanting, all of us as men want to know, are we good enough, right? That's why we compete. That's why we fight. That's why we do everything, right? Yeah. And I saw him striving to want to have relevancy in the industry that he cared about. And I saw that and I'm like, yeah, I believe in that. I believe in him and I believe, and so if I could help that, and I had a love for strength and conditioning, and it was like, all right, well, what do I need to do? How can I help? Yeah. That was my job description, was how do I help? And then eventually, if you're semi-observant, you watch for a while and you're like, hey, like I could see we could do this and this. And sometimes it was like super, super stupid simple. I mean, literally to the point, I wrote something down in 1999. It was a list of, here are the things that I think would move Sorinex ahead. One of them was get a dedicated fax line. Because when people would send us orders in, if we were on the phone with another customer, the fax wouldn't go through.
Oh, wow.
Stupid as simple as that.
Yeah.
But I remember like, hey, maybe we should get another fax line so when you're on the phone with this university and this other one's trying to send a purchase order, maybe it'll come through.
How's that going now?
Yeah,
Like
it's weird, right? But I remember thinking, and he was like, yeah, but that's like another $30 a month for another line. And I'm like, but maybe we should do it. And he was like, okay. And then I remember calling the thing and getting another line, and I hooked it up, and I'm like, okay, maybe this will help. And then it was like all little weird things like that. But he was just so in it. Like his thing was design, work with a customer who's on the phone with you. They'll tell you later on that day the fax is going to come through. You don't answer the phone. You get the order. Then you go build the order. And so I look and I'm like, that was only like 25 years ago.
Oh, gosh.
And so that was my goal. Is like, hey, I think I could see things slightly differently and solve problems. And then, of course, it would equate to a little bit differently. You know, I was training for the Olympic trials, and I was like, hey, I want to do something that builds rotational power. And he and I invented the landmine. Yeah. Well, it wasn't for public use. It wasn't to sell. It was to help me make the Olympic team. Yeah. You know, and then it was.
Which the landmine it's everywhere now.
Probably the most copied. Besides our racks and rigs, probably one of the most copied.
Yeah, I see it in 24-hour, like just Globo gyms
everywhere.
now.
It was never meant to sell. It was meant to be my secret weapon. And then, of course, like I started playing with it. I'm like, oh, you could punch with it. You could row with it. You could do all this other stuff with it. And showed it to a couple customers. They're like, hey, can I get one? I'm like, yeah, I guess. Like, and then the rear leg elevated squat or single leg squat, same thing. 2002, I was like, I want to do a rear leg elevated squat, but I don't want to put my foot on a bench because I actually want to overload this movement. I want to work up to 200-300 pounds because I'm a thrower, because a 95-pound on my back with my foot's wiggling and balancing everywhere. I was like, I thought about it. I was like, I don't want this to be a balance exercise. I want it to be an overload exercise. Well, then what do I need to do to make that more stable? I want to dorsiflex over something. And Al Miller had made these like trapezoidal boxes and things like that I saw at University of Georgia. I was like, yeah, but I'm not going to make a box. I want something that's adjustable because maybe I have different height athletes. And then so went out in the shop and pulled steel and made it. And again, it wasn't for public consumption. It was for me to squat a bunch of weight with one leg because I was trying to win. You know, and so you look through all those things, and then eventually you smarten up. You're like, hey, maybe if this would work really good for me, maybe we should have
make some money with this.
maybe you even get a dedicated like internet line even. So
multiple facts.
It's just interesting, but as Pops he would start trusting me more, and I'd come up with a design, and he's like, I think it's a great idea. Or no, a lot of times you say, if you believe in it, go do it.
Oh, cool.
If you believe in it, do it. You know, and then it wasn't, this is stupid. Or maybe he'd give a little bit insight. Hey, what if you did this from a safety? But once we got to a place, it was, you believe in it, do it, see how it works.
Yeah.
And that's so important, I believe.
That's a cool thing, because it is. It's the same stuff he did with you as a kid in the woods. It's just the same thing he did with the business to carry on and leave that with you. And you said something about him trying to, what was it you said, like establish relevancy in the sport he cared about, and then ultimately inducted to the International Sports Hall of Fame.
Crazy, right?
Talk about relevancy.
Talk about relevancy, yeah. I mean, to have, it's only our town, but we won like large business of the year in our town, which there's some pretty giant businesses out here. So to get that the same year as he got inducted in the International Sports Hall of Fame, it's like, wow. Kayla Harrison's was in the same class. Hafthor Bjornsson was on the same class. And so it was like, wow, I fervently believe he belongs on that list. But still, it's neat. It's neat to get the flowers. And especially, I think it was John Davis that said, don't wait till someone's dead to give them their flowers. Oh. And it was like, glad that we were able to do those things, and I'm glad he was able to get the recognition that he truly deserves, because I think he was so much more instrumental in the strength and conditioning world than people really fully understand, not only from the design and things that Sorinex brought to the table via him, but even like grip sport. And, he was the father of the modern grip movement. He was the first number 3 captain of Crush. He invented the blob. He was one of the first people in the modern era to pinch grip 245-pound plates.
Just insane.
He found, he convinced Brian Shaw to get into strength sports when he was 18 years old. He came by our booth one day and he lifted the inch dumbbell, and Pop's like, "That's amazing. How old are you?" And he's like, "I'm 18. He's like, "You're really special. You need to do something with this." And told his mom, he goes, "Seriously, you need to have him training like he's special." And you look and you're like, oh, he just had an eye for it. But he loved it. He had an eye for it because he loved it.
Yeah.
And I think that's in with all passions. Like if you truly love something, it'll take up bandwidth in your head constantly. And if it does, then if you're semi-talented, you'll be valuable eventually because you'll actually keep knocking at it and keep adjusting it and keep doing it. And then one day, you have a seat at the table.
Yeah. And I know that talking about passions, like you have a lot of passions and there are things that, yeah. What other people would call hobby, some of us just call a passion, and we go for it, and therefore we can't do it a little bit. But you have a lot, and you're passionate about a lot of things. And I've seen you talk about passion insurance. You said I saw that in an interview. We were talking about passion insurance.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah,
it was with can't remember. It was an outdoors magazine.
Right. Well, basically, why training and everything. Is that right? Yeah. And training and nutrition. That became my passion insurance. If all the things that I wanted to do in life, if I'm more fit, more capable, stronger, more durable, live longer, that's insurance that I get to do my passions to a higher level and I get to do them longer. Now, still things might not shake out.
Yeah.
However, if elk hunting is that important to me, well, I know how I will get to do it less if I'm out of shape, fat, and I don't shoot my bow.
Absolutely. And you'll get to do it. You might not get to do it with your kids,
correct,
your grandkids.
Right.
And that's such an important thing too. Like you hear people, I'm telling you right now, it's being, this is the receipt. I will never be the dad that's like, like I used to do this. I will be the dad that's still doing it. I won't be as good
best
at
as
it.
you can.
Yeah. I won't be doing, when I'm 60, 70, jiu-jitsu is going to look a little different for me, but I might still try to like sit on the ground and do some stuff. Yeah. But I don't ever want to be the dad that talked about the cool stuff I used to do. I'm not saying terrible. I can do it at the same pace, the same level.
Well, you're a realist.
Yes, but it's like, how much do you really love something?
Yeah.
If you were going to let yourself go, and obviously there's things that happen, sickness, disease, or disabilities, but I can't imagine being passionate about something and then letting my health and fitness get in the way for me being able to continue to do it.
That's negligence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I would argue if you are intentionally or not intentionally letting it slide, but intentionally not doing anything to intentionally keep it from sliding, then I would argue it's probably not a passion.
No.
It's kind of an interest.
Yeah, I agree with
like,
that.
I'm kind of interested in it. But are you passionate? Don't say it's a passion.
Yeah.
Because if it's a passion, you're going to make it a way. Like, you'll figure out a way. Like, I figure out ways to hunt. People are like, I can't believe you hunt so much with as busy as you are. I go, I've done specific things. I drive a vehicle that allows me to keep my gear in there locked up at any place. I made it a point to secure multiple hunting properties in every direction around my hometown. Whichever way I'm going, I put money into stands, I put money into spots, and I figured out ways where, based upon my extremely busy schedule, I could put the least amount of effort in, not effort, but overhead time against my rest of my life and still get to taste my passions as much as possible. Yeah. I put a gym in my house because it's important to me. Is it important to you?
Yes.
That's what it boils down to. If I put a grill outside of the office at work because I want to be able to cook meat because that's important to me. And so that's where I would argue if someone says they can't get something done, I would just ask them, how actually important is it to you? And is it actually a passion, or are you mildly interested in it? And then if the answer is not my passion, then I will ask you, what is your passion? And if you can't come up with something, then you and I are not the same.
Yeah.
Because I don't understand that. Yeah. If there is no passion, then I would suggest looking at your life differently. Otherwise, what's the point in going to work to live just like, get a little bit of money in the bank, buy some okay food, and I sit on my ass and watch TV or what, like, man.
I can understand that life.
That not even can I understand it. I can't understand it, right?
Yeah,
I don't know what it's like. It's like, what if you were a donkey? I was like, I don't know what that would be like.
I can't relate.
I can't relate, man. So I would just, when I'm asking people, just be passionate about something. I don't care what it is, but be
something hopefully that contributes.
Yes, and that you can contribute and do things more to help the next generation. I mean, I've said, you probably heard me say before, like, I have nothing against ball sports and things like that, but my dad never threw a ball with me. And we're in the sports world, but he goes, the probability, which was somewhat interesting and accurate actually, he said the probability of you playing baseball or football after you're 18 years old is probably very, very low.
That's a profound statement because most parents don't understand that.
Right. He said, so if our relationship is built on us throwing the old pigskin in the front yard, and he goes, probably after about 14, you're not going to do it with me anyway because you're going to be driving and you're going to do it with your friends. Mm. And then you play football, and then I'm going to watch you play football, and then you're not going to play football after you're 17 years old. Mm. So we have nothing in common anymore. He goes, but if I teach you to hunt and to fish and to lift, he goes, I have a hunting partner, a fishing partner, and a lifting partner for my entire life. And
that's awesome.
The intention of that was incredible. And then that passion became my passion. Mm-hmm. So then until the day he died, that was my hunting partner. Yeah. We talked about lifting. We built a business together. We built a strength empire together because we were both super passionate about it. I kind of laughed. I was like, man, what would it have been like throwing a football in the front yard of my dad? I don't even know what that would be like. I don't know, but I know I would go over to his house and now differently, which I think super paid off. I'd go over to his house and there'd be gear everywhere and there'd be a bathroom scale. And he'd go, okay, you're camping out tonight. And I go, okay. And he goes, you have 10 pounds. Pick your best 10 pounds to take. At like 8 and 9 years old. So I was having to figure out, is it better to have a tent or a tarp or a hatchet or a saw or both, but that takes up too much space and weight. And so what he was teaching me was to start looking forward as far down the corridors of time as possible to the decision that I'm making, live with the decisions you make, understand what each decision has a flow chart of things that go with it, and then run the experiment. Figure out your 10 pounds, we'll weigh it, okay, put it in a pack, we're gonna go camp out in the backyard tonight. And if it sucks, then you learn, and you come out the next day, you're like, I didn't even think of a blanket. I had all this other stuff, but I was really cold, it was terrible because I decided to bring 4 potatoes that I can't cook anyway. But it's like, why are parents putting people in situations now to make those decisions and suffer through the poor decisions? And so that was my childhood, remembering that stuff. Wow. And then, and now I'm not saying I still try to like throw footballs and baseballs and stuff with my kids because they're interested in it. But the reality is my son's probably not going to be a Cy Young Award winner, like most likely.
Just statistics.
Just statistics. Just if we're going to roll the dice and you're like, what's on the bingo board today?
Yeah.
Probably me watching him in the Super Bowl would not be but I know I'll be interested in the outdoors the rest of my life. And if I get to, nothing, when I was 10 years old as a little boy, I thought and fantasized about having a 10-year-old little boy to take hunting. Like that was what I wanted since I was a kid. So it's like, it's happening now. I got 8, 10, and 12. And it's like, when kids are outside right now, they have a fire out there, and I brought them a tarp, and I go get your survival book, start looking up shelters. And I'm going to do this podcast, and before it gets dark, you need to build it now. So I'm going to go out there and check and see what they got going, and I'll play with them and whatever. But I think there's so much more to that because you start teaching people how to think and how to solve problems, and then also how to live with poor decisions, because that's what hunting taught me. Also, it's like, man, you forget to bring your raincoat and it rains, Pops ain't coming back because you got wet. He told you to bring a raincoat. Yeah. And he'll let you sit there and freeze your ass off. Yeah. And then you get back, you're like, whoa. He's like, Colin, huh? I'm like, yep. You know how many times I forgot a raincoat again? Never, ever in my entire life, ever. I've had some sort of blowout plan raincoat in the bottom of every pack I've ever carried since. Well, that was a cheap lesson to learn back then. And then, but that carries over to business. I know if I'm going to go do an install, I got an impact wrench set with me. I have a round file. I have a this. And that's in the truck that I'm driving somewhere because I've been there and I didn't have it before. And I ain't going to be that guy again. And so I think that like teaching that forward thinking mindset is insanely valuable for people. And I don't know how often people are doing it.
Yeah. And especially now, especially in America, everything is done for you. Like it really is. You don't have to, because the truth of the matter is, chances are you're not going to be in a situation where you can't just call for help. You can't just, those aren't necessary realities now, but they might be. And the fact of the matter is, most people now aren't prepared for it.
Aren't prepared at all.
And people aren't preparing their kids for that.
Yes.
And that's a scary situation for me.
Sure.
I hate the thought of being unprepared, even in situations that statistically are impossible. I still want to know that I at least have an idea of what I would do because I have been caught in situations that were statistically impossible.
Oh, yeah.
And I was either prepared or unprepared. And usually when I was unprepared, I can draw back on a situation where I had the opportunity to be prepared and I just wasn't.
Could have done that.
Yes.
Yep. And then you get hemmed up pretty bad. And then then from a gear perspective, there's like 2 or 3 things that would almost always got you out of a jam. Mostly. You ever watch those like I Survive shows?
Oh yeah.
And they're like super crazy. Something happens. This bear attacks someone. Yeah. And I used to watch it with my wife. And then, after a while, she would kind of mess with me. I would always go, if he had a knife, wouldn't be in this situation.
Usually
95% of the chance, if he has a knife in his pocket, that situation is negated. And I always laugh. I'm like, man, if you got your pants on, you better have a knife in your pocket. Because, man, that solves a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just, but I like looking at those things and seeing congruencies. How do we solve things? But then that goes into product design. Hey, if you're squatting, most likely you won't fail. But if you do, what happens? If you benching and this fails, what happens? How many in the flow chart of how many bad things could happen if this occurs? All right, well, part of the design is looking down the corridors of time and trying to solve that before people make stupid decisions and get hemmed up.
Yeah.
And so like, again, I look at just the mindset of that as being wildly valuable. Whether someone likes hunting or not, like that was just the vehicle that made it real for me. And because you're in nature, nature's the only really true thing. There's no side talking. There's no chicanery. There's no shucking and jiving. It's like, hey man, it's just cold. Nature doesn't care. It's cold. You're just going to be cold. Now you could have prepared for it and great, you won.
Yeah.
But if you didn't, nature doesn't care and you might die.
Nature never works with you. You just do your best to work with it and hope that it reacts in the way that you prepared for. But ultimately it's on its own. But you better be thinking ahead. You better take it, you better take it seriously. You better be prepared. And I think those are lessons that I think the outdoor pursuits are so valuable for people developing, especially kids, because it teaches that. Football game, there's certainly other things that are developed and whatever too, but it's like, you get hurt, there's trainers there, there's staffing there, there's it's like the no one's coming to save you thing is not really a part of that puzzle. Yeah. I've been shocked this year to the point I'm like, man, I might just start doing some small classes. I don't know. I have been shocked this year at how many grown men, 30s, 40s, one like 50 some years old, have messaged me like, hey, can you teach me how to hunt?
It's cool.
They have no idea. They don't know how, and they want to learn. I'm like, that's awesome.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Like,
Jamie
so cool.
Shira. So he runs that Hunters Recruitment Project. And that's exactly what it is. It's, hey, you didn't have a dad or your dad didn't teach you how, and you want to know, but kind of as grown men, we don't want to seem like we don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. Because we're supposed to be guys. I know how to do everything.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, you weren't exposed to, or you weren't interested. That's totally fine.
Yeah. And now maybe you're seeing how it can benefit you.
And maybe you're just interested. You want it as a passion. I mean, that's one of my favorite things is getting people into it.
Yeah.
And mentoring and like, hey, I really enjoy this. Maybe you will or will not to my same extent. But if you're interested, the best thing I could do is pour into you like other people have poured into me. And it's really cool. Like, especially you'll get folks that, like you said, your wife was a vegetarian.
Yeah,
right?
She was a vegetarian in her past. Yeah. Very not a hunter. Very, very much turned off by guys posting pictures with deer and everything.
Yep. Yeah, that's my wife now, and same thing. And now she's like, "Hun, like we're running out of venison chorizo. You need to go shoot." Like, well, I'll go hunt that day. I'm like, hey, I'm hunting for this one buck. I'm trying to get a hold. She's like, yeah, but if you don't see him, you probably like still need to shoot something. Like the freezer's getting empty. I'm like, okay, it's like, oh darn, I have to shoot.
Yeah.
Right. But I love it that she sees the value and my kids see the value. My kid's favorite food is venison. And I look and I feel good as a man going, hey, I know I'm giving my kids one of the most healthy foods on the planet, and I'm teaching them. I'm sharpening my sword, and I'm teaching them how to do that themselves.
Yeah, and it's self-sustainability, unlike anything else, and that's another thing I was trying, and that's how I kind of got my wife on board with it and how to understand. And it's the point now. She was saying the other day, she was like, we really need to start pulling some of the taxidermy out of your office and start putting in the living room. I think this backpack mount, which is the most grotesque of all.
Wow,
but it's the most like, if someone's not into hunting, they don't want to see a backpack mount where it looks, it's the hide and the deer put on this thing that looks like a backpack staring at you.
Super cool though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I've got one and she was like, I think that would look really good in the living room. And I'm like,
now we're talking.
how do you feel about a third kid right now?
Ladies, you heard it out there. If you want to get your man.
Yeah. I'm like, man. And
that's the mating call.
It was
getting more taxidermy in here.
But she understood how she's a very independent person. She realized the independence that brings, and she understands that. And then my kids, kind of the same thing, teaching them that. I'm like, hey, like my oldest, he's 7 years old. I have a 7-4-year-old. My 7-year-old is in that phase of, well, is this cool or not? Because what your friends decide what's cool. This football team's not cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, Dad, why do we want the Buccaneers to win this game? Well, because Dad works with someone on the Buccaneers. Like, well, my friend so-and-so's friend is on the other one, so it's not cool. I'm like, well, it pays our bills, so that's cool. Things like that, and getting him understanding. And with hunting, he had that for a bit. He goes, none of my other friends hunt. I'm like, well, buddy, it's cool that you do them. You're doing something your other friends don't.
But you're going to be that guy when you're about in mid-20s or like, hey,
yes,
you teach me how to do that cool stuff.
And that's what I told him. I said, buddy, one day you're going to be so good at it that you're going to be taking your friends and teaching them how to hunt. Yeah. I was like, how many of your friends go and buy food from the grocery store? And he starts laughing. Like, this was after what was it? It was after the first time I'd killed a deer with him next to me.
Right.
And I was talking about, I was like, man, in a couple of years, I'm going to have you killing your own. And all this, like, how many of your friends go and buy grocery stores? Like, Dad, they can't drive. I'm like, you kill your first deer. I was like, you just bought your family groceries for a year. I'm like, you just, that would be it. And I told him that the other day. I'm like, buddy, how do you want this? Like, how do you want this made? Because he loves steaks. He goes, I want jerky. I'm not a jerky guy because to me, that's like, I don't want to take my deer and decrease it. But I'm like, okay, that's what you want. I'm like, this is yours. You did it. You get to choose.
I can't wait.
I'm like, but you just helped feed our family, Silas. Like that is the impact of what you did. How many of your friends can say that they helped feed their family for this year?
It's so interesting. It's like I hate to say, like during COVID, everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, we have a meat shortage." Yeah. and I one of the guys, well, what are you gonna do? I go, I know where meat lives. And they're like, what? And I go, like, how is this a conversation right now? Like, there's a lake right there. There's woods right there. Like, all I need is time.
Yeah.
And I was like, and if the crap really goes to crap, like, I don't got to go to work anymore. I hate to say, like, my time freed up.
In the back of your head, you're thinking, that sounds kind of nice.
And in no way do I want the apocalypse to happen, but but it was like, well, it would cut out a lot of time that I have. I have to kind of maybe reconstitute doing other things I don't feel like doing.
There was one point at the beginning of COVID, it hit me, and this was back when, everyone was unsure about it. And I had a 1-month-old baby. So my wife essentially kicked me out of the house.
Right.
For 2 weeks. I'm like, well, guess I want to go stay in the house. I lived in a house before I met her, or when I met her, and then we got a house into civilization. This house that I'd rented from friends was just middle of nowhere, no cell phone service, 36 acres, bass pond in the front, surrounded by woods, no neighbors. And she's like, you got to go quarantine somewhere. I'm like,
don't tempt me with
darn.
A good time.
Like, I'm going to go quarantine in these mountains for 2 weeks. And after like day 4, and I'm sitting here, like, I tested positive for COVID, but I can't smell and taste, but that's about it. And here I am, like, posting pictures of me, like, out in the woods.
Like Brad Pitt from Legends of the Fall. I am now a hunter.
Yeah. But she's like, just get home. You can quarantine our room. She was like, I don't know where we're sending you on vacation. I'm like, saying, you can come quarantine here too. Yeah. No, but I was kind of the same way with it. I'm like, me short a chair. I know where it
lives.
Yeah, and I know how to process it.
Yeah.
I know how to cook it. I know my family knows how, and
it's the best feeling.
It's an important thing to know. And on that note, I don't want to keep you much longer because your kids are out there, playing Survivor Man, and I know you want to get back out there with them. But it is really cool to be able to discuss how, again, like everything that you're legendary, obviously, International Sports Hall of Fame, that is legend status. Your dad was a legendary man.
Yeah.
And the legacy that he started and he instilled with you at a young age, putting you in the middle of the woods by yourself with a 22. I mean,
dude, he left me on an island when I was 10. I'm not kidding.
Oh, that's
in
great.
Lake Murray, I was possibly 11.
Yeah, maybe.
But I was with my little stepbrother who's 4 years younger than me. And it was in December. And he had this little 12-foot John boat. And it was the same thing. Pick all your stuff that you're going to take. Like, we could take a lot more. But he's like, hey, this could be a cool survival weekend. He's a great salesman. So he sold me on this whole thing. And I'm popping up like a rooster. Like, I could do it, because of course I want to impress him and I want to adventure. And he took us out to Little Goat Island in Lake Murray in the John boat and left us out there in December. And this storm came up, but it was the waves were white capping so high he couldn't come out to get us. Well, we didn't have a cell phone because it was in the 80s, no CBs. So we're like two little kids left out on an island in a storm in December. He left us with an 80-pound pit bull, Spike. So that was him. He's like, well, I know no one's going to mess with you. But you start doing the flow chart. You're like, well, you're right. We had enough clothes. We weren't going to die.
No.
I wasn't going to jump in the water, so I wasn't going to drown. And no one was going to take me because I had a rhinoceros of a pit bull with us that loved me. So you're like, and I had food. I wasn't going to die.
Yeah.
And so where it sounds like extremely whatever people want to say about it. But I look at it and I'm like, yeah, it sucked. It was the worst night of my life because we didn't have a tent. We had a tarp and a rope. And he's like, you know how to build a shelter out of a tarp.
That's awesome.
And so we did it. Well, of course, the wind was kicking really hard, and the island is maybe the size of my yard. It's this little, and the wind's kicking hard. It's whack, 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 on that tarp. And my little stepbrother Brian's with me, and he's having a really rough go of it. It's terrible. It's really cold. And I remember I had 2 stocking hats on because I was trying to keep the sound just smashing. It's like if I just sat there and whacked on the hood of your car while you're trying to sleep in it. And then he's having a really rough time, and I'm laying there, and I'm like, this is so terrible. There's so much stress. And I remember going, thinking as a little kid, I was like, but I'm not going to die, and it'll be light soon. And when it's light soon, something will change. At least it won't be dark and scary anymore. And so you kind of start getting okay with a whole lot of just shitty situations. Yeah. And I look back and I got back, and it was pure Richard Sorin fashion. The next morning he shows up. Finally the white waves slack down enough. He runs the thing up on the beach and he yells at us for not having the fire and breakfast ready. He's like, "Where's your fire?" I was like, "Dude, we've been I didn't sleep last night. I've been balled up in a hole trying to just not die, and then hiding under Spike because he was warm,
Oh my gosh.
And I remember my mom was super mad at him about this. And but I laugh, and years later, no one believes this, right? But years later, it's funny. I was talking to my dad's memorial to Brian, who's now he sold his business for multi-millions. He was and so both of us were C students that became very successful, and we're weird. We experienced a great amount of stress and trauma at acute situations as a kid, and learned how to get through it because he was he went off to the Marine Corps and crushed. And then did all this stuff, but he was kind of a slow starter like I was. Yeah. And then we were laughing. We're like, yeah, but turned out pretty good for us, didn't it? It was going on that island and just having it really, really suck. Yeah. And we laughed. We're like, man, was that the pivoting moment in our life? Maybe, I don't know, but I think it was probably just a data point
One of many.
One of many data points that was just like Richard Sorin basically believing that we were ready for something that probably we weren't. But given enough time, you become ready for it because
you'd rise to that level.
Because you have to, right? Like no one was going to get me. So by the end of the morning, I was either going to be a basket case or I would be okay with things sucking for a really long time. And I was eventually. And it was like, and I remember as a kid looking at other things hard would happen. I was like, it wasn't bad as that island. The island sucked.
Yeah.
And then now it's like I'll sit in Missouri, my beard would be covered with ice and all this other stuff. I was like, I've kind of trained for this.
Yeah.
Like, this is wasn't bad as that stupid island.
And that's awesome. But it is. I feel like he created this world that you're now entrusted with continuing the legacy.
Yeah.
And as someone who's just been part of that world for the last few years, I'll say you're doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
It's touched my life, and it's I started hunting when I was young, and then I kind of quit doing it for years because I was busy and life happened. And I started back with it several years before, but the Sorinex world kind of reignited and helped me find this circle of friends who are also so passionate about it and
passionate about both things that you're passionate about, human performance and the outdoors.
Exactly.
Right?
And not even just those things. I won't even say those things, talking about your wife, talking about the undercurrent.
Yeah.
The other things I'm passionate about. I'm a proud Christian man.
Yeah.
My family is everything, and that is Sorinex. All those things are Sorinex, and those are part of.
We've my wife and I taught us like, and I don't really say it publicly. Maybe I should or shouldn't now, but I don't care. I mean, it's our ministry. But I've kind of looked at a ministry of like, don't make it an overt ministry. Yeah. Make it a ministry through action and through hopefully someone interfaces with me and Sorinex and my friends and their life gets better. And one day they're like, hey, are you a Christian? And the answer is yes. But I never want to lead with that. I never want that to be what this is, because in my opinion, you could get over your skis pretty quickly with that. Yeah. And I never want to to reflect poorly on my decisions or my human actions. But yeah, no, I think that this whole thing has to have a bigger purpose. Again, we make steel rectangles, right? And cool, they work really, really well.
Really good ones.
But they're there has to be more to all this. Yeah. There has to be more to than rate of force development and lower body fats. Yeah. Like there's more than all that, because there'll be someone who does my job after I'm done doing it. There'll be someone who does it after you're gone from this earth. But we're just trying to do a really good job while we're here, while we're taking up this timeline within the human performance field or the outdoors field. And if the people in the outdoors world view Sorinex as the strength and conditioning folks, the people in the strength and conditioning world view Sorinex as the outdoors folks that are assets both ways, and there's a dual value proposition that we could help each group introduce to the other group or develop both of them. Cool. Yeah. If we're pro family and pro capability, integrity, like those things, those are things I'll die on that hill.
Yeah. Well, I do. I think those are the things that your dad intended in the legacy he wanted to leave, and the legacy that he obviously left, and the legacy that you're continuing. So I'm grateful to be part of it, and of course thankful for you to being on the podcast and talking about it and sharing.
Love being a part of your life. That's the thing. It's like, it's not our world. It's our world, literally our world. And we all create this community. And one of my dad's goals was to change the strength industry, and my goal was to change the strength industry on a cultural level. Yeah. But I kind of realized in order to do it, we had to be good at what we do, or no one cares, right? No, and so
that's true.
And so it's been fun.
Well, you're doing it. So
thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
I want to thank you guys for watching, and also a word of thanks to our sponsors who have made this episode possible. All I ask is that you guys please hit the like and subscribe button, as it helps the podcast grow, and so we can continue to bring on some great guests for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.